to play up against Jokic, and this is the end result. So, yeah, I think there's going to probably be some level of a shakeup. I don't know if whether or not it means, hey, Terry Stotts is no longer the coach. If the belief is, hey, the Portland Trailblazers, don't have enough to help Damian Lillard, I guess the bigger question is going to be, well, what do you think is going to happen? Because this is, to me, like this reminds me of the Portland Trailblazers. They got X'd out of the first round by the New Orleans Pelicans when they had Anthony Davis. Jokic wound up to be the better player in this game, essentially. When you look at the numbers, you think, oh, Damian Lillard had like another, spectacular game. I can't give him kudo credit for that because he was a no-show in the third quarter. And the Portland Trailblazers didn't win that third quarter, thus allowing the Denver Nuggets to come in there and snatch their hearts. So,
yeah, tough loss. The series is now a final 126-115. Denver has done it. Dame had checked out the game right before the final buzzer, but nothing but kudos and love. The bro hug as we're getting ready for that Lakers Suns matchup here as well too. And it's tough for Portland. The conversation is often about what will they do next. And Chris Haynes had that article about Dame potentially being unhappy rather. Dame said it was fake news, but now we got to see what's really good, right? As they don't.
This idea that Dame, McCollum, and Nurkic is the foundational piece for Portland. I think that is a non-starter now. I think Nurkic is a good player, but I don't think he can stay healthy enough, and I don't think he can be trusted. When you're talking about this window of the kind of play that you get from Damian Lillard, and I think you saw that in full blown tonight against the Denver Nuggets. Nurkic had 4 fouls in the third quarter. Okay, 4 fouls, and most of them were just silly, stupid, nonsensical fouls. That can't work. If to your point, Shaw, if you brought back the original question, does Dame Lillard need help? Okay, well, if Dame is going to lean on McCollum and lean on Nurkic, when he's being double teamed, they have to play more intelligent basketball. And you just did not see that in that third quarter. And I think if you're really serious about, figuring out a way to keep Damian Lillard, it can't be thinking that you're going to try and make this thing work with him, McCollum, and Nurkic. It's not going to work. They're not going to get to a Western Conference Finals. They will not get to a championship with that type of combination. They're going to have to shake something up between those guys. I'm more leaning on the fact that they'll keep Lillard and McCollum before they worry about keeping Nurkic. But they're going to have to do something about that because Nurkic is just not working for it. For what Lillard has done for Portland and put them in a position, he's alone. He's given Nurkic a reason for them to keep egging on this belief that there should be that trifecta. But I don't think it's there. I don't see it. And people may think I'm jumping the gun on this, but what I saw Nurkic do in that third quarter pretty much sums up to me the frustrations and disappointment that is still yet to come if they continue down this path of trying to push and force this three-headed monster of having those 3 guys on the court at the same time or be the foundation for the Blazers. It's just not going to happen.
Sound a little negative on my guy Nurk. I'm a Nurk guy, really. I think, and when he came back in the bubble, some months ago, we were really excited for the Blazers and what they might be able to do. But he had another injury this year, and missed a lot of time. And he was pretty good. He kind of had to work his way back up into it. Jokic is just a better player than him. I don't think there's any debate about that. And trying to match up against Jokic versus him in this series is going to be particularly tough, or was particularly tough now that the series is over. Our boy Matt has a good question here. Is like, do we think Dame and CJ can they win without a defensive stopper? And I think the answer to that is no. As Kyle outlined, they're going to need some sort of a wing stopper. Rocco is just not what they want him to be. Derek Jones Jr., with the injuries and things of that nature, like they tried a lot of things to get wing stoppers on this team to help Dame and CJ to take the pressure off of them because they're not elite level defenders themselves. But like I said, Rocco has regressed. Derek Jones Jr. had the bunch of injuries and then kind of was out of the rotation. Norman Powell has the chops to be a defender. I don't know if he showed it at all time throughout the course of this season and the course of this series specifically. So they're going to be looking for some answers. It'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with Norman Powell for sure this offseason, because they did trade Gary Trent Jr. for Powell. And a lot of people didn't like that move. It paid off at some point as well too.
What do you think? Do you think now, in hindsight, was that actually, the wisest decision for the Portland Trailblazers? To me, I just think that they had a good team when they had Gary Trent Jr. And I think this was the perfect series where a guy like Gary Trent Jr. was going to be able to have an impact or make an impact. And I'm not saying that Norman Powell is not a solid player, but I just don't think that the Norman Powell dynamic really had any effect as it pertains to what was necessary for the Portland Trailblazers to do what they needed to in order to try and at least push this to 7 or advance in this series. And I'll also add this. I think Terry Stotts totally miscalculated the way that he was playing his team. Okay, he left Nurkic in there way too long. I sometimes don't even. I liken this to what I saw what the Knicks took on the Atlanta Hawks. You just clearly can see where some head coaches are just still not astute in making in-game adjustments when you see that your team is losing its edge. And that, to me, is the thing that concerns me more about where the Portland Trailblazers go from here with this window that they have with Dame Lillard. Terry Stotts made some bad, miscalculated decisions that allowed the Denver Nuggets to take that third quarter. And I'm a firm believer, if you win the third quarter, you ultimately win the game. And where the Portland Trailblazers had opportunities to stop the bleeding, they just continue to roll out the same guys on that court that made the same mistakes and or allowed the Denver Nuggets to get easy baskets at a time where maybe the focus should have been a little bit more on tightening up the D or being a little bit more forceful, putting the pressure back on Denver to make those shots. And they didn't do that.
We will definitely properly eulogize the Portland Trailblazers on the Baseline NBA podcast at some point.
I got two shovels for their ass. I'll tell you that right now.
Wow, we're gonna need multiple shovels. A lot of teams, they out of here, as you alluded to, right? Like they dump the bodies. Celtics got up out of here. Big shakeup this week with them. We'll obviously get to that at another point. The Wizards, they up out of here now as well too. The Utah Jazz dispatched the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies up out of here now. Now we see Portland's up out of here. So there's a lot of teams we have to kind of go ahead and do the autopsies on.
The only one that I will promptly euthanize will be the Memphis Grizzlies, because they just simply did not have enough horses to run with the Utah Jazz. They were just simply, of all the matchups that we're talking about, of the teams that got knocked out, the Memphis Grizzlies justifiably and rightly got knocked out. I at least applaud the fact that they were competitive every single game. But there was no way for me to believe that they were going to be able to hang 4 quarters with the way that the Utah Jazz was playing. And if you said that the Memphis Grizzlies actually had decent defense, all right, I tell me what you would have believed more, Shaw. The Memphis Grizzlies playing really, really good defense and holding the Utah Jazz maybe to 105 points or less, or the Utah Jazz averaging like 15, 16 3-point shots made every single game that they played in that series.
Well, I'll answer your question by going something adjacent. It's interesting because we talked about the Clippers and what their 3-point shooting was supposed to be when it came to the playoffs. We haven't seen it. While Utah has maintained their level of proficiency and output from 3, which a lot of people thought was going to be fool's gold. It was like, all right, they're not a true 1 seed. Remember the Celtics were the 1 seed a couple years ago? It was like, they're paper champs or paper number 1 seeds. Let's just say paper champs. And a lot of people thought that about Utah. Well, Utah is proving some people wrong. Memphis is a very tough in-game team, except they got him up out of here. John Morant had a great series, but ultimately it was a building block that I think that Memphis Grizzlies teams needs to now get back here again next year, right? So I think as you alluded to, when we actually do talk about them in more depth, we'll probably be very kind because they're a young team. They showed some chops here, and they still have a bunch of talent, a bunch of players that don't even play for them, like Justice Winslow. They traded for him. That guy doesn't even play for them. So they could potentially go out there and make some moves and actually get another wing or another, probably another wing or something to go alongside John Morant, Valanciunas, Dylan Brooks, and the likes, and Jaren Jackson Jr. as well too. So, but attention to tonight's game, you know, everyone's wanting to talk about Suns versus Lakers, bro. Anthony Davis, you know, you talk about paper, right? this guy, man, like
Paper
one
machine.
of the elite, one of the elite level talents in the NBA, 100%. Like when he's hooping, like there's few are better than him, but he's just one of those guys. You know, I was listening to Antonio Daniels on NBA radio the other day, and he's like, "Yo, you know, whatever power you believe in, right?" He's just like, but the creator, if you will, different. Some guys just fall and break down, and you know, some guys get back up. You know, I mean, from the same injuries. You know, Davis is one of those guys who seems to continually break down. What do you think we're going to get out of AD tonight? Do you think he's healthy enough in essence to kind of give it a go, but what level of percentage do you think his health is at, and what level of percentage can the Lakers get by with him being to get actually a win tonight?
For the Lakers to win, needs to be at 75-ish, 75, close to 80%. I don't know if I'm going to completely buy into the idea that he's going to be anywhere close to that, which then obviously puts the burden on LeBron James. But I think the bigger outlier to this, Shaw, is, I mean, what kind of supporting cast do the Los Angeles Lakers truly have, right? Like,
wait, wait, the same team that everyone ushered in the championship before it was done. Oh, they got Harrell. Oh, they got Dennis Schroeder, and they re-signed Morris, and it was all of that. And now we're questioning. It's crazy to me that we're at this stage of point. But right. Here we are.
Well, and more importantly, are we saying that the Phoenix Suns are really making the Los Angeles Lakers role players look that bad? Or are we saying that the Los Angeles Lakers are so codependent on LeBron James and Anthony Davis that it has made the essence of those role players become obsolete? I mean, when did we say that guys like Markieff Morris and Montrezl Harrell, and even during the regular season, Horton Tucker, when were we saying that those guys are just not good enough to be able to help the Lakers figure out a way to get past the Phoenix Suns? A Phoenix Suns team that hasn't been in the playoffs since when? What, 2012 or something like that?
Wow.
It's been a while, right? So, but again, I think part of it comes down to how much faith Vogel truly has in the guys that he's putting out there, right? And I think the other thing that comes into play is whether or not these role players are going to butch up and step to the plate to mitigate knowing that Davis is not going to be even remotely close to healthy, to make sure that he can at least get them through the game, right? Like that to me, it's such a fine line. There's a thin line on that, you know, and unfortunately they're doing it at the expense of it being an elimination game, which makes it even that much harder. You know, most teams can kind of garner and gather themselves and ride on the momentum. Hey, our warrior is running with us, man. We got our guy running with us. He's going to give us whatever he's got. Like, remember when the Golden State Warriors, you know, had gotten back Kevin Durant, and it was even only for those few minutes. When you saw the way that the Warriors were playing, you were just like, damn, maybe this tide has truly turned, especially when the Warriors came off of that win and they were trying to get Kevin Durant back. And then he had that injury again, and it just completely sucked the life out of all hope that people believed that the Warriors were going to be able to figure out a way to pull this thing out, right? I think the same thing kind of applies when we're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers here. Is this team so lost in believing that they absolutely need Anthony Davis and they absolutely need LeBron James? And I'm not saying, oh, you know, they'll win it without them. I'm just saying these guys, the guys that are listed outside of those two, truly in honesty, I don't know what role they truly play on this team anymore. It's like they've completely lost their identity and they're so codependent on their superstars that it makes it hard for Vogel to have any faith in leaving these guys for extended periods of time against a very gritty Phoenix Suns basketball team. You know, they know who they are. They know what they're going to have to do to win. So,
the funny thing to me about that was if you followed Lakers Twitter, right? And again, you're tuned here to the baseline here, Warren Shaw and Cal Lee. Follow Lakers Twitter through the course of the regular season as Schroeder misses jumper, Booker with the rebound. It was all the how, and even I got caught up into it, is how the Lakers bench and role players were now going to grow with AD and LeBron out because they're going to be forced to play minutes and take on responsibility they wouldn't ordinarily have. And it's almost like you're saying, well, now that these guys are back, they've kind of just turned into pumpkins. Remember, there's a rumor out there, and we don't know if this is true. We're not in the front offices, so we're not going to sit there and make proclamations that we can't back up, so to speak. But Talen Horton-Tucker was the whole up in them getting Kyle Lowry. Like, if there's any truth to that, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? So, again, as Jay Crowder knocks down the three. Oh, quick note on the prop bets. If you took the over under on Jay Crowder, 2.5 threes, he's already got 2 here in the first 3 minutes. So I hope he took the over because it's looking like Crowder's going to,
it's not going to be a good night for the Lakers if Jay Crowder is hitting threes early. Okay.
He's feeling good. Feeling good. But yeah, it's wild as LeBron fires back with 3, 8-5. Suns, 9:27 left to play here in the first quarter. LeBron looks like he's trying to play some defense. Phoenix is doing a good job in making sure they're involving Anthony Davis in all the actions and pick and roll. Yes, he's an elite level defender, but they're going ahead and saying, like, let's see what that groin do. Let's see what you got as Booker pulls up and buries a wing 3 over AD.
I'm gonna say this: if I'm the Phoenix Suns, and I'm Monty Williams, I'm selling out on Anthony Davis, and hey, shoot your jumpers.
He looks bad.
Yeah, he doesn't look bad. He doesn't look like he's 100%. And if I'm DeAndre Ayton, I'm making sure that I'm making it difficult for LeBron James to play his north-south game where he's giving open looks to guys to shoot the basketball because they're completely spreading the floor. Now, I understand people like, Anthony Davis when he shoots the ball because he's just that elite of a player. But groin is a groin, right? Like, so if Ayton's presence is causing fits for people to drive and not be able to get clean looks, disturb the traffic, he's rebounding the basketball, he's already doing much of the work, right? That I think a lot of people fret was going to be the mismatch in this series. You remember what I was saying in the very beginning when we first talked about, what the keys were. If you got a double-double from Ayton and him getting a couple of blocks, I think he cancels out the matchup and the significance of having Anthony Davis on the other side, because the role for Anthony Davis is to make sure guys like Ayton don't get those type of performances. And tonight is a perfect night where Ayton can come in there and he can get guys in foul trouble. He could put Anthony Davis in a spin cycle. He could do a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have to be an all-star guy, but he can certainly be a presence that's going to make people question whether or not Vogel can leave Anthony Davis out there for extended minutes if he can't be effective on either side of the ball. Well,
I mean, this is kind of old. Well, I mean, if you grew up when we grew up, the main thing is like, hey, you guys, well, you suited up, you put your sneakers on and got your shorts on out there. We got to go at you. And if you rise to that challenge, bet, dope, kudos to you. But the Suns are going to go ahead and they're making him work. So we just saw Devin Booker, drive baseline with AD on it to shut it down, but they kick it out to Crowder, who hits his third 3. So again, props to you if you took the over on the Crowder 3 threes already as the Suns take a timeout here. But to me, this Anthony Davis thing, it looks real rough. On offense, he was just kind of standing out. It doesn't look like he's going to, at least right now, he's ready to kind of go down the post and kind of bang a little bit because of what that physicality may have to do and the movement that he would have to try to do and test that groin. If he can't go, we saw how it ended. I think that was what Game 4 when he was able to come back. What Phoenix was able to do with AD off the floor. Is there any hope? I think for this Lakers team or anybody else we can look, because we talked about the supporting cast. Is there a specific member of that supporting cast that you'd look to step up for? Is it Harrell? Is it Kuzma? Who can try to spell and maybe get hot, catch lightning in a bottle, and carry the Lakers if AD is really not going to be able to give them 100% tonight?
I mean, I hate to say this, but it's probably going to come down to Schroeder or probably Horton-Tucker. I was hoping it was going to be Andre Drummond. but clearly there is no chemistry. No, I'm just saying I just clearly don't think that there's any chemistry there with LeBron and Drummond. And anybody who's trying to make me see that, all right, shoot, let's see what happens here. This has nothing to do with whether or not Vogel not starting Drummond. All right, I mean clearly he's put Gasol in there because Gasol passes the basketball, and I think he wants LeBron off the ball a lot more than what he's doing right now. Okay, Drummond can't pass the basketball, but then again, that lends to the idea that when Pelinka made this move to bring Drummond over. Well, I thought it was a solid move because we just really didn't know the certainty of the Lakers front court. You can clearly see LeBron has no chemistry with Drummond, right? Who else out there does Drummond have chemistry with? Schroeder, Caldwell Pope, Caruso. You know what I'm saying? Like he's on an island out there. He basically has to find ways to get his own buckets. He's not. I don't want to make it sound like he's a trash player because he's not. He's just not a Laker player, right? And I think now you're seeing in this kind of matchup against the Phoenix Suns, he actually is going to do more damage for the Lakers the time that he's out there because Vogel has not implemented any kind of plan to use Drummond in a way that's effective to how that team has been built for these last 2 years. You know, and LeBron is certainly not lending to it either, and they don't have the time to figure it out or fix that. So I think it's going to come down to the guys that LeBron has rode with if there's any hope for them to beat the Phoenix Suns tonight. Like, it's got to be Schroeder. It's got to be Horton Tucker. It's got to be Caruso. He's got to believe that these guys are going to be able to hit shots. Caldwell Pope, they got to hit shots. They're going to have to. That's the only way they're going to win this game.
Yeah, well, just a little while ago, AD was catching the pass, going towards the rim. You got a little bit of a push there and, just kind of rolled the ball off and kind of grab that groin area as well, too. So this is going to just be the story. And the Suns are just relentless. Chris Paul now trying to dance on Davis on the perimeter. They find the ball down inside the Ayton, who makes a terrible pass. And they end up turning it over. But I applaud the Suns game plan. They're like, you are going to get this work here tonight. What will it say about this Phoenix Suns team if they're able to get this W, and just kind of what do you think the keys are to the game for them specifically outside of attacking Davis relentlessly?
Don't beat themselves, okay? Don't help the Lakers stay in the game, much less the same thing with what happened with the Portland Trailblazers. Don't help the Nuggets stay in the game. Right now, this is a great opportunity for them to basically play bully ball against marginalized players that Vogel has out there on the court. And when I say marginalized, I'm not just talking about injured players. I'm talking about guys that just haven't performed well in this series at all. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has not performed well in this series. Gasol has not performed well in this series. Schroeder has not performed well in this series. Right? So there's really only one guy on this court that should readily concern you. That's LeBron James. And if you know how you're supposed to be playing LeBron James, then everybody else should be nullified if you're the Phoenix Suns. You don't have to have, over-the-top defense. But I'm just saying, don't make these other guys now suddenly become relevant. You know what I'm saying? Because you're sleeping on the idea that that Anthony Davis is not 100% and you don't you don't handle your business.
6:35 here, 14-7 Phoenix. Davis, after another contest on Booker, who tries to throw up a wild left-handed running hook on him, but Davis is out there trying to contest, unable to kind of make the defensive adjustment here. He kind of just walks off and he just has now crumbled. He's on the sidelines. I don't know if you're watching here with us here on HotMic, but Davis on the sideline, 6:35 left here, as I alluded to, and it looks like he might be donezo for the night. And honestly, that's the thing, bro. Like if that's what it is, then just pack it up and then try to get your guys out there who are healthy.
It's absolutely a mistake on the Lakers' part to say, oh, sure, go ahead and let him come out there, even if he's saying he wants to come out there and play. I just didn't see I didn't think it made any kind of sense whatsoever, right? Like groin injuries, and players can come back and can bounce back from that and whatever the case may be. But we're talking about Anthony Davis, and we don't know if whether or not forcing him to come out there, even to play some minutes in the beginning of a game, you know what I'm saying? To me, this could be a long-term effect, right? It could be just something that's added onto the list of nagging injuries that will affect Anthony Davis, and he's still supposed to be the cornerstone of future for the Lakers franchise. The Lakers don't win a championship this year. I mean, my God, what? Lakers fans are going to be up in arms? You know what I'm saying? They're going to be burning down the streets. I mean, you know, I did not understand the logic in having Anthony Davis play this game. You know, I really think if you really want to test the veracity of this team and whether or not they're championship caliber, LeBron works with the guys that he's got, and he figures out a way to get these guys to play. If they're good enough, they should be able to hang with the Phoenix Suns and maybe even give themselves an opportunity to win this game. But now seeing Anthony Davis go through what he went through, what is this going to inspire these guys to play even better basketball? I don't know. I'm not completely buying.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you just never know because as Chris Paul a little while ago went down, clutching that right shoulder yet again as well too. So this is the walking wounded out here between these two teams, and you just never know like if they can just say okay he's out, right? Then what type of spark comes from the rest of these guys here? Now knowing that all right, it is on us. Like we don't have him to rely on as KCP hits a ridiculous three to make the score 16-10. But somehow it went in 16-10 Phoenix with 5:20 left to go here in the first quarter. So Lakers doing a decent job after getting kind of run out of here in the first couple of minutes as Booker picks up an Aaron drop off from Ayton there and hits it on the baseline 18-10 Phoenix here. I'm a little bit now, for even Chris Paul as campaign has entered the game for him. Even if the Phoenix Suns are able to get past this series, I mean, we can't do that just yet. Terrible pass there with Crowder with the steal. How good is Phoenix as Booker knocks down a three? Wow, sorry, this is kind of getting fast and heavy. So as minute Paul goes out, campaign comes in, offense kind of picks back up for Phoenix here, and again, Cameron Payne has had a really good series. So actually, let's kind of turn our attention to that before whatever I was trying to say before. What are your thoughts on campaign on what he's been able to do, in this series?
Hoops redemption, man. Hoops redemption for Cameron Payne. I'm happy that he found his way. I thought he was always a decent enough guard when he was with OKC. And maybe it was for for the best that he didn't completely follow the path of Russell Westbrook, because homie would have been a true maverick. And who knows where he might wind up being, because he definitely, his skill set is not like Russell Westbrook's, right? But what he provides is exactly what the Phoenix Suns need. And I will say this: if the Phoenix Suns get to the next round, I think they're going to be okay. Now, I'm not saying that they'll be able to get the level of play that Chris Paul gives them, but I think Cameron Payne is a comparable enough guard next to Devin Booker that they can buy enough time to allow Chris Paul to heal, so that he can come back about as good as he could possibly be able to, in the next round of a series, if they get to that point. But that's just how good Cameron Payne has really been. And you can basically make the argument, Shaw, that the theme for this playoffs has been, who do you got behind your star guard? Who is backing up your peoples? Because the quality of teams that have advanced has been predicated on the quality of role players that have stepped up in the point guard and shooting guard positions for the teams that have advanced.
Well, Booker has the heater going right now, so maybe they'll be fine without Chris Paul in the next round. Booker's got the heater going, 6 of 7, 4 of 4 from the 3-point line, 16 already here in this first quarter.
That's that Kardashian that he got going.
Yikes. So not looking good for the defending champs here in the first quarter. 27-10, 3:45 left to go. Let's come back on the other side of this break and dive in a little bit more into this game and kind of what's happening here. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Let's set the stage here. LeBron now is taking, looks like his first rest of the game. This is one of those, like, you almost think like he may need to go the full 48, but Vogel is trying to get him some time off here now as they go with my man Torrey Craig coming in here for Crowder. So resetting this game a little bit, right? And we talked about Laker contributions now that we know AD is out. I'm going to focus the attention for the Lakers, like, just on the defensive side of the basketball. You know, right now they're being really pesky, you know, especially with Caruso and Matthews out there. Can they muck this game up, really, and just make it a grind and try to pull out something and keep it close that way? Down 15 now, you're already in the first quarter. But is there a way defensively, where they were one of the best defensive teams in the league, can they do that and try to slow the Suns down and hope they start missing some shots?
Well, I mean, you can see the mannerisms, you know, by the Phoenix Suns that clearly they want calls. I think if you're Monty Williams, burn a timeout and talk to these guys and be like, hey, stop looking for getting these damn calls. You're not going to get them. You're playing in LA. Okay. And let's be real. Everybody wants to see the Lakers go as far as possible. I'm not going to get into like conspiracy theories. It's a fix. It's a rigged game and nothing like that. All I'm saying is, and it's just tried and true, the home team is going to get home calls. If you're the Phoenix Suns, how you minimize that is don't give them the opportunity for those calls to be made. You know what I'm saying? If you understand your opponent, if you understand what it's going to take for them to stay in the game, they have to make shots. Don't bail them out by getting silly fouls, putting them on the free throw line, making them all-stars that they're not really all-stars, right? Like, that to me is where I think the key should be for the Phoenix Suns is stay within yourself, right? They clearly don't have their defensive anchors on the court. I mean, look at their setup. Wesley Matthews, not the same defensive proud, you know, guy that he used to be. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope can only give it to you in spot minutes. Dennis Schroeder, he's not a defensive type of guy, right?
Holy hell. Again. Booker, 2 threes in the time that you've been talking. 33-12. Phoenix, 57 seconds left to go in the first. I mean, it is, and these are Steph Curry wet rainmakers from 2-3 feet behind the line. This guy's dialed in. Like, let's actually, again, and not that what you're saying wasn't important, but
no, it wasn't.
But no, I mean, the closeout mindset of Booker right here that he's showing in this first quarter so far, and his first ever playoff series.
Lead by example.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, you're not getting the calls. And maybe in a way that's helping Devin Booker. Maybe he feels like that's the disrespect. Like, you know, give it. You remember a few years ago, Damian Lillard had that same kind of mentality where it just felt like, you know, you're playing against the elite teams. You're playing against an elite player like a LeBron James or Kevin Durant or whatever, and you're not getting those same calls that those superstar players are getting. You feel some kind of way about that. You take it personally. So what do? You don't take it out on the refs. You take it out on the player that is being, you know, played up against you or against that superstar player, you know, based on the numbers that they're posting, saying, I'm going to own you tonight. And that's exactly how Devin Booker's treating this. I think that once he stopped whining and didn't realize he wasn't getting them calls, he's like, I'm not even giving you a chance to put me in a position where this is going to be an issue tonight. Like, he literally is saying, I'm going to bury this team. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I'm going to give you my autopsy report before we even get to halftime on the Los Angeles Lakers. That's his mentality right now. And I think the Phoenix Suns should follow suit in that.
Wow, you're 100% correct. And one of the great things about this, too, you know, while he's hot here in the first quarter, as Cameron Payne pulls up for 3, and he knocks down a 3 as well, too, after Rahel had a nice little putback dunk, 36-14, 30 seconds left to go. If Booker can stay this hot and they can continue to run this offense and build this lead, then there's no need to put Chris Paul back out there with his hurt shoulder.
Absolutely.
You know, or you just kind of give him some spot minutes, you know, because Booker will need a rest at some point as well. But that would be huge. And we talked a little bit about, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves if Phoenix can actually close this thing out. But what that would mean, because you would hope the Clippers are going to show some level of moxie, in their next game to maybe force a game 7. Otherwise, you're, playing the Dallas Mavericks this weekend. Like I guess that series will probably start on Sunday. So I think if you're Phoenix, you definitely want to see if you can continue to build this lead, close these fools out win the way that you did in Phoenix, you know what I mean, and just have the lead where you don't even have to worry about it down the stretch here as we end the first quarter. Let's take a quick break, man. 36-14. We'll come back on the other side of this and try to dissect and figure out some hope for the Lakers here. It's a long game. We still got 36 minutes left to go, but we'll see what happens. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Like, it's hard to not. Load of threes. Cameron Payne got into the action as well too. Phoenix Suns looking like they're ready to close things out here.
Can I ask a quick thought? The reason is an immaculate Phoenix Suns, I don't think it's because of the offense, even though they did score 36 points. They held the Los Angeles Lakers to 14 points, bro. 14 points. You're the Los Angeles Lakers. Even if you had asked the question a little bit earlier before we went to the break, can the Los Angeles Lakers, if they muck up the game, they slow the game down, will that give them a chance to win this game? Well, look at what they attempted to do in trying to muck up the game against the Phoenix Suns, and what did the Suns just do to them? They mucked the game up so badly they can't even score 20 points in this quarter. This is not sustainable for the Los Angeles Lakers, right?
Mm.
I think that they're going to have to play fast and loose. I think that they're going to need to just run. And whatever LeBron James can give you is what you'll have to do, is what will have to be done. But this team is not built to play an ugly game against the Phoenix Suns, because the defense is not good enough to be able to stop the Phoenix Suns from doing what they just did in this first quarter.
Well, I'd push back on that some. I mean, Booker's threes were pretty ridiculous, and he didn't miss. So I would say that he wasn't extremely winded on those threes, especially when he was taking them from a couple of feet from behind the line. But you also don't expect the guy to go, 6 for 6, behind in the first quarter as well too.
Can I counter your point? Who right now do you have on the Los Angeles Lakers roster that is capable of stopping Devin Booker?
Stopping?
Yeah,
No, no,
when I
no
say
one's stopping.
okay, not stopping. What I'm saying is being able to physically D up against Devin Booker. The only person that I think they could be able to do that with would have been Anthony Davis on switches. He'll provide length. He'll force Devin to make bad decisions at times. And if Chris Paul is not on the court, Devin Booker is the person who's coming off the ball more, right? So they're playing off of that. Well, now that Chris Paul is off the court, Devin Booker is feeling it, and he's got the ball in his hands, right? Yeah, Cameron Payne is the point guard, but ultimately, if Devin Booker gets the ball, he is not wasting, he's not thinking, he is just like, I'm putting this in between your eyes right now. And there's nobody on the Los Angeles Lakers that is going to be able to hang with him on that. Just none.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if at some point they do try to put LeBron on him in some aspect. But part of the Lakers defense and why it's supposed to be good is that they will give the other opponent's team, like their best player, a lot of different looks. Caruso is a more than capable defender. There's, like I said, we've talked about it on the HotMic here when we've been on it before, where some people are clamoring for Caruso to be on 13 all defense or something like that. Wesley Matthews, not the same guy he used to be, but sure, it's supposed to be a defender. KCP, same thing. So all three of those guys, in the addition of LeBron or AD when he was healthy, would take turns to give looks to to Booker to change things up for him, because that's the biggest thing they always talk about in this NBA, is that you cannot throw the same thing at them. They will figure it out, and they will pick you apart. So you have to consistently change the defenses. Throw a double sometimes, and have it attacking from different angles as well too, because eventually he'll understand where that's coming from. We're not really seeing that so far in the first quarter, unfortunately. Well, sorry, in the first half of this game, 38-15 as we're talking about it. But I am concerned. I think for as vaunted as this Laker defense is supposed to be, what are we seeing right now? It has been a little bit unfortunate, and this is all this without Chris Paul. So that is a very, very key point to this. And they're running around with Kaminsky out here. I don't think Saric is hurt, so maybe Kaminsky is taking Saric's minutes now. Monty Williams is out here trying stuff, just doing different stuff, because not really sure. It's very
kudos to Monty Williams for doing that, because one of the things I think that we're going to question about the Phoenix Suns, if they get past this first round matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers, is will they have enough depth to be able to hang with whoever they play up against in the second round? So I like the idea that Monty is putting out Torrey Craig and putting out Frank Kaminsky and those guys. Listen, it's up to the Los Angeles Lakers to choose whether or not they should be insulted that these guys are going to actually get extended minutes because they're not playing good enough basketball to keep their asses off the court, right? But if you're Monty Williams, this is exactly what you want, because you're going to want guys out there to help continue to play with that same level of intensity, even if they're arguably their most coherent, sound leader is not on the basketball court at this time right now. And then you got a guy like Devin Booker doing dirt all by his lonely right now. Is a one-man wrecking crew, but still you want to be able to feel like you're giving some quality minutes, for a team right now that's just manhandling the former, the defending champions. So.
Very interesting play here. Suns are doing a great job of trying to hunt switches here, because I think LeBron is trying to take the night off, if you will, defensively. He's been matched up on Chris Paul when he's out there, as Paul is back in the game and Booker went to the bench. Phoenix is like, nah, bro. So they're making sure they're running these high pick and rolls and making the Lakers defense switch to try to get into the lane and get what they want. As LeBron drives, playing for a foul, doesn't get it here. I just think the Suns have a very solid game plan. They knew what it was. It's a great pass from Cam Johnson to Frank Kaminsky on the baseline here. 42-18, 8:55 left to go for the Phoenix Suns here in this. it's really, really great to see a young team like this mature. But when we talk about young teams, let's talk about a little bit more about what Booker's done. Well, even more so, TNT led into this section of the game here with a tweet from Trae Young, who just closed out the New York Knicks, right, and said, "Oh, Booker's on one tonight." What's your thought on another three for the Suns, 45 to 18? Sorry, but what are your thoughts? Some of these young guys.
Your play-by-play is just
simple.
I'm stunned what Phoenix is doing here. Lakers call another timeout. So we won't even take a break here. Just what are your thoughts on some of the young guys, man? Just, what we saw from them, even those who are no longer with us, if you will. John Morant, did a great job in that Utah series. We talked about it a little bit as well too. But Trae Young advances and gets past the Knicks and averaging over 30 in that series and playing the Reggie Miller villain role as well too. And now we're seeing Booker doing great things in his first playoff game. I think the league is in immensely great hands right now, don't you, bro? Like this is great to see when we know some of our older G's are getting, they're getting on their last legs here. We don't know how much longer they're going to be with us playing around the league. I think these young guys are ready to take the torch.
No, absolutely. But I think the other thing as well too, though, is I'm liking the versatility and what the young guys are bringing to the table. I think that's what has really attracted us in watching basketball over the last 10 years is we've seen different dynamics of how teams can win championships. Remember, there was a time when nobody bought into the fact that the Golden State Warriors could win a championship by just shooting jump shots. And they quickly dispelled that myth. And then they built a dynasty. You know what I'm saying? And so what you're seeing here from guys like Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Donovan Mitchell, Ja Morant, what you're seeing is the evolution of where they are showing themselves. They're showing you what their game is becoming, right? It's evolving. And within that, it's on display and it's reshaping the conversation about what kind of style of basketball is going to ultimately win a championship. Who can get that team there, first, and so by seeing all of these guys come out there and give us the performances they give, and if you really look at it, Shaw, no one performance is identical to the next, right? Like Trae Young's performance against the New York Knicks, while it was awesome, you could also make the argument that, man, John Morant he did some work as well too, and how he got his points, how he got his assists, is nowhere near in the same stratosphere ballpark as to what Trae Young was doing as well. Both of them crazy numbers, but how they were able to elevate their game and put on the performances they did is why we're watching, and how it's enabled their teams. Because it's been effective, right? It's tangible. That to me is, I think, what matters. Like, I think over the last few years, we've been enthralled by super great performances, but they've not really had a whole lot of impact because in the end, that team doesn't advance or that team gets knocked out. But what we're seeing from some of these young guys is when they do put these performances on, it leaves a lasting meaning for us to be like, we definitely want to see more of this. And we know that it's going to mean something down the road for the teams that they're playing for.
Yeah, I love what you said, to be honest, because each one of them are doing it extremely different. I think Trae Young came in as a chucker, as a guy who was just trying to get stats. He complained a little bit, after year one, saying that they needed to surround him with a winner. But now they got their requisite pieces. And for the year they started with and how they started, fired their coach, so forth and so forth, he's learned how to be a better complete basketball team player. Right. And we saw that, and he got his 30, but he got it in a way that was extremely team oriented for the Atlanta Hawks. Then conversely with Ja Morant, kind of similar. Ja Morant is not obviously the shooter that Trae Young is, but he's going to the bucket, acrobatic finishes and layups, just has really bought into the culture of the Memphis Grizzlies and that entire team chemistry. They're probably one of the closest and tightest knit teams in the NBA, if you were asking me, so to speak. Then you go over to the West and Luka Doncic, where he is the complete heavy lifter. He's doing everything. Thank God for THJ as well, Tim Hardaway Jr., who's doing a little bit of something. Porzingis has been No, kind of MIA then kind of serious. But Luca does everything for Dallas. But all these three young guys understand what their team needs, and they all do it well. And with the exception of Jobs, who just went up against a better Utah team. It's really great to kind of see these things kind of happening within the NBA right now, and I'm excited. I really am excited for the future of the league, and I think a lot of people worry. But with these wings and these guards who really just have the pulse of what the league and what basketball needs to be about as leaders, I think we're set, bro. I think we're set. 45-19 Phoenix Suns here as we go back in.
Yeah, and just adding on to what you're talking about with regards to the score, I'm seeing where the Phoenix Suns are getting a little too cute with the passing. Again, like they've got a nice sizable lead, but be very leery about the idea that don't sleep on a wounded animal. LeBron James is the ultimate competitor. He may be very slow, to pick things up. But if you're the Phoenix Suns, you got to pour it on them. I mean, you got to basically just take their heart. Give them no incentive or reason for them to feel like there's going to be a comeback in this game. And so we're seeing, the Phoenix Suns that, clean a lot of that garbage passing that they were doing, in the beginning portion of the second quarter. They were getting bailed out because they were getting great shots. But when they're moving the basketball, they are a dangerous basketball team, Shaw. They can move the basketball, especially when you got Chris Paul.
Yeah.
But, if they stay clean, man, I have very little faith that the Los Angeles Lakers have anybody that's going to be able to stop what the Phoenix Suns are bringing tonight. And we haven't even seen any significant contributions from DeAndre Ayton. He hasn't even been on the court. He's like, I think he's been on the court for 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I just tweeted that, and all this, and Ayton is scoreless. Like literally, he has no points in this game right now. So hold on here. Sorry. Got to shout out our guy Mojo, catching and checking in here was on the YouTube. Oh! I don't know if you saw Snoop Dogg's IG post the other night when the Lakers were getting lambasted. But one of the lines he said in his IG post just stuck out to me. He was like, he just said the Lakers are bad in their emotions, like Mary J. Blige or something like that, bro. And I was crying, it really took me out. KCP hits the second three here in the quarter. Lakers down 21, 6:28 left to go. But do you feel like there's a chance that, I don't know, and I'm going to jump around here a little bit. Our guy Jabari was talking about it too a little bit with Vogel. Is he doing a good enough job? And could his job be on the line if they don't able to pull this out some way? I mean, even if they pulled this game out, it's hard to see that they could win a game 7. It looks like Phoenix is clearly the better team in this series because of the injuries. But you think Vogel's job is on the line here? I think that's a little drastic.
It's absolutely. I will say though that depending on who you think is running this basketball team, and I'm never going to say that a coach isn't running the basketball team. I just say that sometimes when you've got superstars who have more clout, their voice resonates a whole lot more on who they want to be playing with. And let me put this also in perspective as well too. Sometimes when you're the coach and you're more concerned about doing what's best for the team to at least be able to be positioned, to have a chance in a game or win the game, you're going to wind up putting the players that your superstar player wants to play with. You can clearly tell that there's just some players LeBron James does not want to be on the court with and doesn't have the time nor the patience to find some kind of rhythm with some of the guys that are on that court. And if you're Frank Vogel, you might be thinking, I need this guy on the court because, I need a defensive stop but at the end, you pretty much succumb to the fact that if LeBron James ain't happy, right, you got to please the star, right? He got to eat. So you got to put guys out there that at least is going to give him the boost, the morale boost to effectively have an impact on the game. And those are some of the tough choices that coaches make. Let's act like they don't do that. Coaches will put guys that they have no desire, ambition to want to put on the court, but simply because they know that the superstar needs that guy on the court. He'll concede, you know? And in the end, the pundits, the analysts, the commentators, they're gonna say, "Oh, why did he have him in the game?" or whatever. If Frank Vogel actually had truth serum in him, he'd be like, "You think I wanted him in the game?"
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Booker hits another three. So Lakers were showing a little bit of life here, attacking the rim. Just as I say that, Ayton finally gets down there to protect the rim. I don't know why he's even bothering trying to guard Gasol. But the Lakers had 3 straight layups, in the paint, with Ayton not to be found, and Ayton finally challenges something, and they, get the rebound and make a stop there down low. Suns still up by 24, so maybe they're feeling a little bit, free right now and don't feel like they have to do a whole lot. But it's the Lakers, bro. You're just not going to just win just because you show up here. They're going to have to, like you said, put this team away here with 4:29 left to go in the first quarter. In the first half. It's really interesting, though, because if you follow social media and everything like that, too, everyone is ready to dance on the Lakers' grave. Obviously, LeBron has a zillion and one haters out there right now. And I think Stephen A. went so far as to say, this is defining legacy. Everyone wanted to see 0 Dark 30 LeBron and all that. I don't know what more he has to prove as a basketball player. And while this isn't a banner year here for the Lakers, I wouldn't go so far as them to call them, bubble frauds. It's just, people they're so extreme
I genuinely
with their commentary.
It's called dramatary. That's what that's called, right? Like they have to make drama. They have to create drama every time that they're trying to make, you add their 2 cents and whatever the case may be. And I can't stand that, right? Like, listen, LeBron James is one of the all-time great players. You know how I feel, how we both feel about trying to, label a player as the greatest of all time, this, that, and the third. To do what LeBron James has been able to do with 3 different franchises, I think is absolutely remarkable. And if you also take into consideration, one was an expansion team, right? That he helped win championships with. Other was a team that is probably as old as the ABA, right? Helped them win a championship. And then the other one is one of the most sought after, well-known championship organizations in all of sports, right? He's helped them win a chip. So,
Hold on, you said the Cavs were an expansion team?
Yep. No, the Heat.
The Heat? Oh, okay.
Yeah. No,
they already had a championship before without him, though.
No, I understand it. But what I'm saying is that the Miami Heat the Miami Heat has never been known to be a franchise that goes out and wins championships like the Boston Celtics or the Los Angeles Lakers or maybe even the Dallas Mavericks, right? Like they've only had really 2 significant stints, and everything else has been they make the playoffs, but they never had sustained success of being a championship caliber franchise. So that's all that I'm saying is that LeBron James helped establish a dynasty of winning championships in that period. Like he actually changed the culture of how people look at the Miami Heat as a professional basketball franchise down in Florida. Even though Dwayne Wade is the foundation, I'm just saying that like LeBron James took it to another level when he was able to, him and his boy and Chris Bosh would be able to do that. So, and again, in this era of how the league markets its players and how, small market teams are looked at, people are like, well, Miami should be considered a large market. You know it as well as I do, Shaw, because you've got fam that's Miami Heat fans. They are in a minority. Okay. And to this day, you probably still have people be like, "Yo, you're not really truly a Miami Heat fan. Stop, you know what I'm saying? Stop jumping on the bandwagon or whatever." You know what I'm saying? Like people still actually believe that because the people still believe that being a Miami Heat fan is like you're not really a fan of basketball, which is not fair. But I'm just saying a lot of that changed when LeBron James did what he did for the years that he did that with Chris Bosh and with Dwayne Wade.
Well said. Our guy Matt chimed in here on the HotMic platform, and this is the team the Clippers avoided. Oh, it's just so funny. I'm just the thought process that both LA teams could potentially be out in the first round is a league nightmare, number one. But, it is kind of crazy to think about these two teams and how they've been circling each other's orbits the last couple of years now. The Lakers obviously got it done in the bubble. The Clippers did not. And now neither one of them may get it done here. Let's take a quick break, man. We'll be right back on the other side of this here to close out the first half of the Lakers versus Suns. As Lakers are actually up in the second quarter here now, so doing a little bit of something, but, we'll see where that takes us. We'll be right back. Closing out here in the second quarter. They have been more aggressive.
Necessary.
They're trying. They are trying. And, as KCP misses another three, Crowder with the rebound here. I'm just really perplexed, I think, by the effort. Where if you're following Twitter right now, the Lakers nation is like they're really upset. For obvious reasons, that Booker finds a way for another layup here. I just, they're saying it's a lack of effort. I just think again, it's more about nice play by Payne there. I think it's just they're not healthy, and the Suns team is not intimidated. And things too, and let's actually kind of talk to Matt's point, right? Here in the chat here on HotMic, he says, and this is the team the Clippers avoided. You and I both said, ironically, I said, well, I thought personally, if you were going to catch the Lakers, you'd want to catch them early. Honestly, if you're the Clippers, I don't know why you were kind of ducking them, because the Lakers were clearly not healthy. So you wouldn't want to take the chance that they could potentially get healthy, and have to play them later on in the series, later on in the playoffs. That's just my thinking. I'm looking at this team. It's like they didn't look right, and they barely got past Golden State. I mean, literally barely got past Golden State, and I just don't know why teams were looking how they finished to close the season. And I know it's a LeBron factor and AD and everything like that as well too, but and I don't want money in quarterback here, but I think it was kind of a misstep in the Clippers. But like I said, the Clippers may be out of here as well too. So kind of just what are your thoughts on the overall mantra of, and then the aura of the Lakers coming into the playoffs here as they're really struggling against this Phoenix Suns team?
The Lakers reminded me of the Milwaukee Bucks. last season. I kind of draw those kind of comparisons. They didn't look impressive on the restart. So basically, in the second half of the season, yeah, they picked up Andre Drummond. And I guess, obviously the intent was to pick him up as an insurance card because they weren't sure about, the health of Anthony Davis. But I'm gonna go in a different direction about the reason why I just didn't believe or buy into the Los Angeles Lakers. Shaw's. Remember when the second half of the season started, the Los Angeles Lakers was sitting like as the third or even maybe like the fourth place team. And it dropped all the way down to the play-in, right? Like, yeah, and they still had LeBron. Now I understand he then got his he had the high ankle sprain. And this was an opportunity for some of these other guys to come in and help maintain the Lakers' placement in the Western Conference, and they couldn't. And again, we probably thought that with LeBron and Anthony Davis that these role players would be good enough that they would be able to still be considered as the best or the top threat out of the West. But clearly, again, and I bring this up to what we were talking about before, these guys are so codependent on LeBron James and Anthony Davis, so codependent that they lost their identity. Look at Dennis Schroeder in this game already, bro. Like Dennis Schroeder, in many people's eyes, would have been considered a sixth man of the year, right? He's supposed to be a ball facilitator, a third piece scorer. Kyle Kuzma, right? I mean, this guy basically was being trained by Kobe, the Black Mamba. Where is he in all this? There's just a lot of lost souls on this team right now, Shaw. So I was not surprised that the Los Angeles Lakers are going to struggle as bad as they have. And now, even without Anthony Davis and, not even 100% LeBron James, a lot of these guys are kind of being exposed, by other guys that are just like, hey, you don't want it, I want it, I'm going to take it from you. And that's what we're seeing tonight right now between the Suns and with the Lakers. And I'll say this too. You're going to also see that again with the Los Angeles Clippers. There are a couple of players on that team in which the Dallas Mavericks are just basically, taking them to lunch, right? And making, us question, what kind of identity some of these guys truly have as role players simply because they are so codependent on Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to bail them out. Because they should be beating this Dallas Mavericks team. But clearly, they're not a good team unless Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are playing at an extremely high level.
No, well, I mean, when you look at the Lakers again, I don't want to continue to beat a dead horse, but where they came from, what prognostications were about this team for this season, it's just crazy that we're here. But they are now putting up some semblance of a fight. Cut the lead down to 20 here with 30 seconds left to go. KCP kind of wound up here on Torrey Craig on a dunk attempt. Looks like they're reviewing this to see if it's going to be a flagrant or not. But yeah, the Suns are taking the foot off the gas here. I told our guy Mo here on YouTube a little while ago. I was like, yeah, they're playing with their food here. You're going to have to beat this Lakers team. You have to beat them. So, with Devin Booker now with 31 in the game, 31 of their 59, I think
you, Sean. If the Lakers figure out a way to come back in this game, who do you think is going to be the reason why that happens outside of LeBron James? Who do you think is the X factor to bring him back to this?
It's the guy who's being reviewed for a flagrant foul right now. I think is actually KCP, because of his ability to shoot the three. And I don't want to oversell it, but you can get hot from three, but then impact things defensively as well too. it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for KCP to drop, a 20 piece, while playing some significant defense as well. But I don't think we're at a point, because if we don't want to contradict everything that you've even been saying, I don't think it's one singular Laker that can do anything at this point. Like, it is going to have to be a group contribution from a multitude of guys. Caruso doing what he does, Kuzma coming in and giving some points and getting scoring in the teens as well too. It's just funny to me that Andre Drummond goes from starter to not even in their rotation, right? So they're still figuring out some things here. But I think if they're going to come back in this game like they seem to be inching and chipping away at, they do have to continue to attack the basket.
Do you think Drummond should have been playing in this game?
Not necessarily. It's just funny, again, starter to not in the rotation anymore, and I think they obviously don't care because their season's on the line, and they will probably have no intentions of re-signing him. I think at this point, Andre Drummond has lost money by coming to the Lakers, where he really thought he was going to gain money. He was going to win a championship, and remember all that stuff too, and then increase his profile. Like, that has definitely gone left for him right now, especially if the Lakers are not able to come back in this game and ultimately in the series. Going to the Golden State Warriors just didn't work out. That's the 1 year they didn't win. So I feel bad for Drummond in that regard, but a lot of people just hate him just to begin with because they just don't think he's a competent basketball player. As we've said on the podcast, we think Drummond is somebody who can contribute, but he does have to know his proverbial role, and he can't be a feature guy for you offensively.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. So they're still struggling here with this KCP foul. To me, the windup is what it is. It's a little bit violent. In today's NBA, that's probably a flagrant one, but they're still taking their time here to review it, to kind of figure this out here as we, try to close out this first half. So, for us here on HotMic, we don't like to belabor the issue. We've ended up with a lot of blowouts for whatever reason. The Kings quickly just end up being that. But before we close off here, as we wait for these final 30 seconds here and then this flagrant call, is there any real chance that you think the Suns will blow this game? And, what would happen if they were to do that? Do you think they would ultimately blow the series?
We saw the Portland Blazers blow a game that they had, against the Denver Nuggets to push the game to push the series to a game 7. I don't think the Phoenix Suns are going to blow it. But I do think that the Los Angeles Lakers will probably cut this lead down to the lower double digits, maybe even under 10. Because let's keep in mind too that the Phoenix Suns are a young team still, right? Like, there are guys on this team that have never tasted playoff success, and they probably will not know what to do in order to sustain the good lead that they created. And to your point, the Lakers have fought and they've chipped away at this lead. And listen, this lead was almost as much as 30, right? Or probably was 30 at one point. And they've gotten it down to 20. So I will say this. And you beating a dead horse, well, I must be kicking it while you beating it down, right? Like, whoever wins the third quarter ultimately wins the game. And so what I mean by that is, even if the Phoenix Suns are holding a large double-digit lead, they cannot afford to let that double-digit lead then become a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter. Or basically, they get cold shooting, or they have more turnovers than points. The Phoenix Suns have to win that third quarter. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's defensively or offensively. Either way, they have got to win that third quarter. They win the third quarter, they win the series. They win the game, they win the series, and they move on.
Okay. Well, there was some other semantics going on there. Jay Crowder got a technical foul. LeBron went to line and missed the free throw. While LeBron is shooting free throws for you in a situation like this, but say la vie, Vogel, whatever you want to do. Torrey Craig goes to the line and misses the first. Every point is gonna matter here, especially for the Lakers. But as we continue to say, the Suns cannot rest on the laurels here because LeBron is a monster, and if you will give him an opening, he'll find a way to get this team back in the game. And I agree with your assessment. I think we're going to see something to the point where this Lakers team probably crawls back within 10 or 12, and then see what the Suns are made of, hopefully here in the second half to kind of close it out. If you're ready for Phoenix, should say hopefully.
I'm gonna it's like kind of like the in the second half. How much? What is your percentage that you think that Vogel is going to let LeBron stick Devin Booker in the second half?
I'd say that's maybe a 20% chance. It just doesn't seem like something that's in the cards right now, as we see the Lakers are now attacking Booker with a double of Wesley Matthews and Schroeder. Schroeder spying off of his man in the corner. Gasol is not concerned about guarding the paint too, so he's kind of hedging up a little bit too to try to cut Booker off on any drives. But Booker was still able and savvy enough to attack the here and actually draw a foul and go to the line. But ultimately, I think the Lakers are going to continue to do what they've been doing. And while we may not necessarily agree with that assessment, it doesn't seem like LeBron wants the of trying to stop and lock down Booker here. He wants it to the guys that they were paid to bring here to do that job. And that may or may not be a mistake. You know what I mean? That may or not be a mistake, but it also depends on LeBron's overall health defensively. And he seems like he's trying to save himself to try to do something offensively because they have no other ways of getting scoring here on a regular basis with that out of the lineup. So maybe it is a smart move after all.
Maybe. I mean, it's left to be desired, but I'm sitting here just kind of going through ultimately like so LeBron, he has 14 points. Listen, he dropped 55 against our Boston Celtics, some time ago. I don't think that he's got 55 points in him, but he damn sure better get somewhere in the 30s if he wants to give the his team a chance to at least be competitive. He's going to have to pull off like one of those like 15, 16 point quarters. It's just going to have to be that way. And part of that, Shaw, is going to be him hitting threes. He's going to have to find his Devin Booker in that second half if the Lakers are going to have a chance. Because I just don't see where they're getting any more scoring and reliable scoring at that. Like, he can lean on said player for 3-4 consecutive 3-point shots. It's not going to happen. No, unless, Anthony Davis miraculously limps his way back in and pulls a Willis Reed and shows up out on the court and, wills them to victory.
I think there are a lot of positives for this Phoenix Suns team going into this second half here. Booker with 33 and 6, but that means, again, Ayton went scoreless the entire half. So you look for him to have some sort of a bounce back in the half. Bridges only has 5 points as well, too, and CP only with 2 points and 5 assists. So a lot of their main guys haven't even been able to contribute because Booker was so hot and remained hot throughout the course of the half. But they should be able to get some of those other guys involved here now to try to take some of their pressure off Booker and respond to a Lakers run, even with only LeBron and KCP being in double digits for them. But there are no other Suns in double digits outside of Devin Booker. So it's been pretty one-sided on that side.
I don't expect Chris Paul to do any significant scoring in this game. I mean, if more than anything, I think he's going to try and figure out a way to get Ayton involved. Maybe to get Cameron Johnson involved, and whoever the other role players are. It's interesting because where I think Chris Paul is the most dangerous is when he is helping the Phoenix Suns stay within themselves offensively. I know that everybody, when they think of what Chris Paul can give you, he can also score the basketball and his shoulder is hurt. His shoulder don't hurt when he is passing the basketball to the right guy who's making the right plays. When he's a part of that kind of action in the offense for the Phoenix Suns, the Suns are unstoppable. The Lakers can't stop that. And I think that should be the focus. If you're Monty Williams going into this halftime, he's like, listen, guys, all we need to do is play a clean game. Play a clean game, and it will take care of itself. But when we start turning the ball over, when we start being too cute, we start forcing up bad shots. When that ball doesn't move the way we move it in the first half, we don't put Devin Booker in a position where he's getting good looks and attacking the way he's attacking. Now we're giving the Los Angeles Lakers life. And I think that to me is going to be the key for Chris Paul. I would not be concerned if he just winds up with 2 points and they were free throws, not even jump shots. But if he gives you 7, 8 assists, and most of those assists are in the second half, this game is going to be a blowout.
Well, another positive thing, I mean, you mentioned the turnovers. Both teams taking decent care of the ball. Both teams only 5 turnovers each. But Phoenix shoots 12 to 20 from the three-point line in that half. All the guys we just talked about not really being able to contribute, including Chris Paul. Well, they're a great opportunity now with no AD in there. There is no real rim protection. While Gasol is a big, for sure, he's not mobile enough to stay with guys if they're coming off the dribble like Cameron Payne, even Chris Paul, and obviously even Devin Booker. And they can try to get to the lane as well too. So Phoenix doesn't fall in love with a 3-point shot and recognize they may have an advantage and try to put Gasol on skates and maybe even get the Lakers into foul trouble, But this is an unfortunate potential way for the Lakers to go out here as we get ready to sign off here on Hot Mic. We're not going to belabor the issue. We really do hope that you've enjoyed talking with us. We'll see what game we're on here for the next. It's been a weird playoff schedule, right? We haven't really been able to figure out the whole vibe here and what game we want to do and how the schedule is going to rock. The NBA is definitely keeping us on our toes there. But any closing thoughts here before we sign off here tonight, Mike?
No, man. I know people are probably a little disappointed that there have been a lot of blowouts, but I'd probably say if there were blowouts, look at some of the performances that were had by some of these guys. I mean, they are, worthy of the highlight reel and worthy of our ability to watch these guys do their thing. They are the future of the NBA, and ultimately, the shakeup that's taking place here is going to put us in a position where we're going to be talking about a possible new NBA champion, right? If things trends the way they are, we won't be talking about the Los Angeles Lakers as a repeat NBA champion. It's going to be somebody else that's going to wind up having a chance to hoist the trophy, and it could very well be a franchise that has never hoisted that trophy before, and that's got to be a good thing. If anything else, it's got to be a good thing for us to be having those kind of conversations, because we obviously want teams like the Lakers and the Knicks, traditional teams, to be a part of the playoff picture. But I do like the idea that there are some franchises that have figured it out and have positioned themselves to give themselves the best opportunity and chance for them to make this run. And it could very well be a team like the Phoenix Suns. It could very well be a team like the Utah Jazz. It could be a team like the Brooklyn Nets. It could be a Milwaukee Bucks. Don't know. All I know is that if it's led up to us getting to these semifinal matchups where we're going to be seeing some really good basketball being played, I'll take those L's on those blowouts in the first round if this is what we're going to get in the second.
100% well said. Looking for these series to be get a little bit tighter. And me, I don't care about the ratings, so to speak. I just want to see the best teams play. But certain matchups, like a Utah-Milwaukee, would not be an ideal finals matchup for the league, to keep it a buck. But, again, it would still be great entertaining basketball if you're a true hoop head, and which we are here on the baseline. So that said, we wish you all a great night. Thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Mic, and for those who chime here with us as well on YouTube. And we'll let you know what we're going to do next, which game lines up. That Brooklyn-Milwaukee series is looking real sexy, so we may have to find a way to jump into that one way or another. Thanks so much for tuning in with us. I'm Warren Shaw. You can catch me at Shaw Sports NBA. That's Cal Game. Catch him at Game Face League on Twitter, and, of course, the show's Twitter handle at NBA Baseline. Thank you all so much. Good, and have a good night. Talk to you again soon.